Hey, Ariel here for the Book of Alice channel. I hope you guys are having a good day so far or night. Hopefully this half hour or so is able to distract you. Today we go over 20 interesting Mandela Effects that I found across the internet, ranging from cartoons to brand names and their weird details. Stick around to find out if you remember any differently. If you enjoy watching contents like this, consider subscribing and following me on my Instagram and my Twitter. Without further ado though, let's get into these entries. Spongebob character designs. I found this one on Reddit, posted by Skylanders Kirby about a month ago, regarding Mr. Krabs and a detail about his character design, surrounding his eyelid or eyes. Now go ahead and picture him in your head. Do you remember Mr. Krabs simply having eyelids, or does he also have pronounced eyelashes? Well, apparently he does have eyelashes, which has astounded some people who remember Mr. Krabs only having eyelids that would cover the top portion of his eyes, but this isn't the case in most of the episodes he's depicted in. These three little eyelash things have always been on there. Another Mandela effect regarding the animated series points to Sandy Cheeks and her character design, specifically an object on her person that people vividly remember, that's being a white backpack, presumably being her oxygen tank, as she is a squirrel living in the ocean. She needs to breathe, of course, but this isn't the case, as throughout her numerous appearances, she is never shown sporting a white backpack or anything else on her back that would appear to be an oxygen tank. Do any of you guys strongly recall this feature on her character? Or maybe you remember them being shown a certain way at least once and have evidence. Kanye West's album. This one pertains to legendary producer and writer Kanye West and his sophomore album Late Registration, which is personally my favorite out of his discography. The Reddit post bringing this up 6 years ago states, I distinctly remember Kanye West's album cover for Late Registration. The bear looked straight at me in the original, or in my version of the album cover that I remember, but as of now, the bear's looking off to the side, and it has this weird kind of distorted look on its face, a similar look that I can see with the Mona Lisa painting. The face just looks off, like a glitch or something. Maybe artists from the past or the other dimensions/timelines understood a method of drawing that we can't comprehend anymore. Look, all of the theories aside, I know for a fact that the bear was just looking directly straight on the cover, and he used to have a mellow and humble expression on his face. What happened? Evidence and music video. This entry is in reference to the broadband Internet Killed the Video Star music video, made in the year 2000. In the video, they make tons of reference to pop culture and media that were popular at the time. Eerily enough, there are two Mandela effects able to be found in this video, the first being the Pikachu one. Many remember Pikachu having a black tip at the end of his tail, although he has never had one, according to Pokemon history. But if we take a look at the poster behind the computer, there we see the Pikachu that so many remember. The second Mandela effect found in the music video is the Britney Spears red plaid skirt mystery, as some remember Britney wearing a red plaid skirt in her Hit Me Baby music video. You know, the one where she dresses up as a schoolgirl? Apparently it was never red, but actually just black. Though this music video from the year 2000, the parody cartoon of Britney Spears is sporting a red plaid skirt, the way many remember it. Is this evidence, or simply acknowledging that we have always misremembered it? Missing Squidward scene. There's a scene some remember from the series depicting Squidward walking into the Krusty Krab and grabbing his hat from a coat rack, turning around in a circle, then proceeding to take off, placing it back on the coat rack, and exiting the establishment, poking fun or simply making a reference to the Simpsons episode Bart After Dark, in which Abraham Simpson enters a house and exits it immediately after spotting grandson Bart. This scene was used by many people online as a basis for reaction GIFs, where they illustrate people or groups backing out of a tricky, toxic, or alarming situation. But it turns out this scene doesn't exist. Scouring the internet, you only come across a few still images of Squidward leaving the Krusty Krab and Simpson gifs, but that's pretty much it. Do you guys think this was confused with the Abe Simpson meme, since both are pretty iconic animated shows, or did this never exist in the first place? The Google logo. Look at every letter in the Google logo. Do you notice that one is slanted upwards, possibly the letter E? Yeah, some recall the Google logo being as straightforward as possible, simply the words spelled out with their iconic colors being their quote-unquote special thing. Though the only time that this was the case was back in 1998. I wasn't even alive then, yet I still don't remember the E being slanted at the end, but what do I know? I have faulty memory. Let's see how others remember it. Does anyone else remember the letter E in the Google logo having a horizontal bar instead of a slanted one? I opened up YouTube on my phone and the splash page had Google's logo, but the E looked different. I remember the E being perfectly parallel with the baseline the word is written on, not slanted. Granted, if this is a recent change in the standard Google logo, I may have not noticed, as I used DuckDuckGo. I think most people just overlook the subtle details in the logos, although many stand their ground as to what they remember, like me, who grew up with the slanted E always being there, but never noticed it. The oldest recorded Mandela Effect. This one comes from Reddit, posted by user Anton61 3 years ago. The post states, possible earliest case of the Mandela Effect, recorded by Carl Jung. Now, if you don't know, Carl Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who founded analytical psychology. Jung's work has been influential in many fields, even founding the theory of the collective unconscious. He believed that human beings are connected to each other and their ancestors through a shared set of experiences. We use this collective unconscious to make choices, even though we are not aware as to the reasons why. For example, the shared experience of people being afraid of certain animals. Listen to this passage from his book, where he seems to tell a Mandela Effect type experience. I retain the most distinct memory of the mosaic of Peter sinking, and to this day can see every detail before my eyes. The blue of the sea, individual chips of the mosaic, the inscribed scrolls proceeding from the mouth of Peter and Christ, which I attempted to decipher. After we left the baptistry, I went promptly to Alinari to buy photographs of the mosaics, but could not find any. Time was pressing. This was only a short visit, and so I postponed the purchase until later. I thought I might order the pictures from Zurich. When I got back home, I asked an acquaintance who was going back to Ravenna to obtain the pictures for me. He could not locate them though, for he discovered that the mosaics I had described did not exist. Meanwhile, I had already spoken at a seminar about the original conception of baptism, and on this occasion had only mentioned the mosaics that I had seen in the baptistry of the Orthodox. The memory of those pictures is still vivid to me. The lady who had been there with me long refused to believe that what she had seen with her own eyes had not existed. As we know, it is very difficult to determine whether and to what extent two persons simultaneously see the same thing. In this case, however, I was able to ascertain that at least the main features of what we both saw had been the same. The experience in Ravenna is among the most curious events in my life. It can scarcely be explained. Wow, what a moving passage. What are your perceptions about this entry? American Psycho. If you don't know Patrick Bateman by now, you've probably been avoiding TikTok, as his presence and lifestyle has been memified and glorified by the Sigma grindset culture. This Mandela Effect pertains to his infamous facial expression that he does, the "I'm not impressed" look. Well, some remember him raising his eyebrows and wrinkling his forehead when doing it, but he simply doesn't when rewatching the film. Take a look at people doing the impression wrong. Though this one's a bit of a nitpick, and it's simply a facial expression, and those could change really fast throughout an entire movie. He could have done this in different scenes, or done it really fast, and that's where people picked it up, but I don't know. Now there are 3 Mandela effects affecting the game Monopoly. Many years ago, many of us here, including myself, experienced the Monopoly man going from having a monocle to not having a monocle. Then a couple of months ago, auctions appeared in the game for the first time for some people. Auctions were always in the game for me though, but I have learned from being a moderator here not all the Mandela effects affect people that experience the Mandela effect. Within the past few days, the Monopoly man's name changed from Uncle Moneybags to Uncle Pennybags. This is my second one relating to Monopoly to experience. My question is, does anyone have any theories on why there are 3 Mandela effects relating to Monopoly? A1 steak sauce. This one is in regards to one of my favorite condiments, A1 steak sauce. It's bussin' on a well done sirloin. Now, do you guys remember the steak sauce logo looking something like this, with a dash in between the A and the 1? Well, A lot of people do, and are surprised to find that there was never a dash in the middle, but was separated by periods instead. Do any of you guys remember it this way? I don't know, this one seems like a simple mix-up for another brand name, but who knows? What if the Mandela Effect is an AI changing information? Is this even possible? Well, Project Maven was already being used by the military back in 2017, which was about 5 years ago. The Defense Department's most prominent AI technology, Project Maven, was made to scan full motion videos and images from drones and other surveillance equipment to identify potential threats. Additionally, it aims to hasten the military's adoption of artificial intelligence. The Sentience World Simulation, CEAS, Synthetic Environments for Analysis and Simulations, is currently being used by Homeland Security and the United States Defense Department to simulate crisis on the US mainland. It can currently execute real-time simulations for up to 62 countries, including China, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Breaking news, census information, economic indicators, and real-world climactic occurrences, along with other military intelligence. And Google gave its AI called DeepMind administrative access to their servers back in 2016, about 6 years ago. So all that considered, it seems highly likely that AI is more advanced than they're telling us. What if one of the many AIs that have access to servers and online information is changing information to test how the human population responds to it? What if the government or military is using an AI to do this in order to test their capacities, or to test the limits of their abilities, to change the information and to sway the perception of the masses? For those that don't think that the government or military would orchestrate a project that malicious, let's not forget about Operation Northwoods, Project MK Ultra, Operation Mockingbird, and the Tuskegee experiments. Missing FNAF scene. Five Nights at Freddy's is one of the most iconic games on the internet. Created by Scott Cawthon, he would develop a cult fan base for the series. This entry is in regards to an infamous screenshot from the game that many have investigated and found that it was never in the game, nor in the trailers, as some like to argue. The image presents all three characters, Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie, staring menacingly at the player, though something looks completely off. People claim to have seen this shot while playing the game, but internet investigators decided to go through all the builds and textures in game and found nothing similar. There's no move or action you could do to make this screen pop up. Do any of you remember this screen? Ariel the Mermaid character design. Some remember that Ariel in Disney's The Little Mermaid was wearing two starfishes as her top. One user even stated, "I even remember watching the video of a dude saying that the starfish have their mouths on the underside, so when Ariel has her bra on, the starfish's mouths were on her you-know-whats." I don't know, maybe it's just us, just want to know if you guys remember her having starfishes as the top two. To be honest, I don't recall them ever being starfishes, but maybe some of you do. I remember them being purple seashells, if anything, but it depends on the version you watched. Funny enough, while finishing the entry, I came across the post this person is most likely referring to, with 10,000 upvotes. The keyword is some. In this post, reading, "In some cartoons, mermaids use starfish as bras. Starfish have their mouth in the center of their underside." This is your brain on drugs commercial. I can't say the word because, it's YouTube, but you probably know the commercials. They show an egg and crack it into a frying pan and say, "This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?" Like this user states, watching the video on YouTube, they show the same scenario, but after they say, "This is your brain," they point to the frying pan and say, "This is the drugs." Then crack the egg in it. I definitely don't ever remember them making that comment in the middle. How about anyone else? One comment states, "I don't remember it either, but they probably made multiple edits of it in different lengths. All commercials do that, but I don't remember the frying pan being called drugs." This person remembers it as, "This is your brain." Pause approximately 5 seconds. "This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?" Exactly. Even in the movie/documentary Have a Good Trip, this is the wording they use. Another reply states, "I went back and watched the commercial, and it's pretty much how I remembered it. While I don't remember him calling the pan drugs, it's likely I only remembered the tagline." To be fair, there are variations of the commercial online. Different ones were made, with some even including an extended cut, though all of them refer to the pan as drugs, which does puzzle some people. iCarly's first episode. This one comes from Reddit and it states, being a kid when the first episode aired, iPilot in 2007, I was eager to watch. I watched the episodes, which is still available wherever you can stream the show. However, I have a vivid memory that at the very beginning of the episode, just before it jumped to a commercial break, there was a scene with Carly and Freddy, where Freddy went up to Carly and said something along the lines of, "Do you want to make outs in the hall?" After Freddy said this, Carly rolled her eyes or said no, can't remember exactly, and then the episode ended. As the years went on, with the reruns, and now streaming, that scene is completely gone from the episode. I've never seen it again, except for the very first airing. I really don't think I'm imagining it, and I would like to know if anyone has a recording of the very first time the episode was aired on Nickelodeon, or remembers this scene as well. Thanks. I didn't really watch iCarly growing up, so I can't really relate to this one, but it seems from the post that a few people do vividly remember this scene. One comment states, I watched the episode of iCarly on some streaming service probably in 2020. I remember the apartment I lived in that year, and I absolutely remember not only seeing this, but being surprised that I watched the show so young, and my mom still let me watch it if they had comments like that, because my mom was so sensitive to adult stuff. This definitely was a real thing. A Mandela Effect and a Spongebob episode. So I remember an episode from Spongebob. It's called Krusty Towers, and if you've seen it, you know there's one Krusty Tower, but I remember there being two towers joined together like a complex. And it makes more sense for the episode to be called Krusty Towers if there are two towers. Like I legit remember there being two towers in that episode. One reply states, I just looked it up, you're right. The episode is called Krusty Towers. Interesting, I don't have a memory attached to this episode, as I have never seen it, but I will do more research on it later, to see if anyone else remembers like you do. I will also ask my nephew, he's a SpongeBob fanatic. Green Lantern with white shoes? This one comes to us from user Future Glow. Reading, I've always remembered Green Lantern with white shoes until today, when my brother was drawing Green Lantern and he drew Green Lantern's shoes green. I was confused, so I asked him why he colored them green, and it turns out it's always been green, and never white. I immediately checked the McDonald's Green Lantern's toys, and they all had green shoes, to my surprise. I remember them being white though. Am I the only one who remembered them as being white? I googled and saw several toys of Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, with white boots, and I managed to find one comic image of Hal Jordan with white boots, and a few other comic covers with other members of the Corps with white boots, but it is definitely rare to see. A Bug's Life 2. You guys may remember the Pixar classic A Bug's Life. Though it didn't garnish as much attention as Cars or Toy Story, it for sure was on replay in my household growing up. Now, I do not recall this, but some remember there being a sequel to the film. Yeah, some remember watching A Bug's Life 2. Not only that, some recall seeing posters and advertisements for the movie. Interesting enough, they are working on a sequel as of now, and are on track to release the movie sometime around 2023. I'm thinking some may be confusing the film with another movie called Ants, revolving around insects as well, though that would be a massive mistake as this one is not made by Pixar, but rather DreamWorks. Zero changed from The Nightmare Before Christmas. This entry is in reference to Zero, Jack's ghost dog in the movie. Now, if you've watched the film, picture him in your head. What is on the tip of his nose? Leave a comment of what you think it is, if you want. Now, do you remember him having a round, red glowing nose, a nod to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? If you answered yes, you may be surprised to find out that he actually has a jack-o'-lantern for a nose. Yeah, he was never depicted in the film sporting a simple red glowing nose. It's never happened. He simply had a jack-o'-lantern for a nose, and he was just chill like that, I guess. One user stated, this is one of my favorite films of all time, and I don't remember Zero having a pumpkin nose. I remember it being a glowing red circle. I thought it was cool because it was a little reference to Rudolph. I think that it's possible that that detail is so small that most of us didn't notice it was a jack-o'-lantern. Plus, I'm sure we all know Rudolph, which inclines us to think that it's red and glowing. I definitely thought it was like Rudolph's nose too, but looking back at it, I can see how easily I could have been mistaken. Coke Zero. This is one that has personally affected me, as I cold-heartedly visually remember the product and logo being Coke Zero, not Coca-Cola Zero, and I could picture that logo in my brain easily. But no, it has always been Coca-Cola Zero apparently. I found a post that I could relate to on Reddit stating, "This is another one I remember, as if it happened yesterday. When I would go to grocery stores or stores in general, I noticed the logo in front had changed to Coca-Cola Zero. I thought nothing of it, just thought of it as a brand change, but it's not. I've seen a few people mention it and skeptics try to debunk it, saying common things such as it's a brand change. The logo hasn't changed though, it's in the back in small letters. They are referring to this small logo near the ingredients on the bottle that does present the logo in the way that many remember it, with the words simply being Coke and Zero. So we know for a fact that this logo did in fact exist, but it wasn't the main logo as believers recall. The post states, that logo was only ever printed in a tiny space on the back where the ingredients and such are. We are looking for main labeling on the front or sides that may say Coke Zero. Never existed now, I guess. I'm just saying it definitely existed as a logo. Oh yeah, I don't think there's an argument of that, and no doubts you can go out and see it right now, today, but it's the absence of the main labeling all over the front. I don't drink Coke at all, ever, but the giant 2-liter plastic bottles I feel like used to have just Coke Zero printed on them when I was coming up. Not a 100%er for me though, by any means. Judge Judy Gavel flip-flop. So here's one that some claim has flip-flopped, a term used to explain a Mandela Effect that has changed multiple times. Back in 2022, there were many Mandela Effect videos that were posted, and in those videos I remember them covering the Judge Judy Mandela Effect, stating that she never had a gavel in the show, although people remembered it that way. Well, she actually does, and it has made appearances on multiple episodes. Is it a flip-flop or a simple mistake though? My theory is that this was always the case. People remembered it because it actually happened. But when the discussion of this Mandela Effect was brought up, there weren't many people avidly seeking an episode with the gavel to prove it's wrong. What do you guys think about this one? I even remember it being an entry in one of my Icebergs videos way back. And so I looked at the comments, and what do you know? Some were denying its existence at all. Some even attempting to explain it away as well. Not sure if this is anyone but me, but when Mariah Cary's All I Want for Christmas first came out, I thought it was a cover of a much older song. A few of my cadences were different, which would be understandable if it was a cover. I knew I'd heard the song before though. I thought maybe the original was Dolly Parton or someone sounding familiar, but no, it's Mariah Carey, and it always has been. Does anyone else firmly believe Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas was a cover? It doesn't feel like a 90s song, I'll give it that. It does harken back to a different time to me. I could have sworn I heard my husband say it was a cover, and he's basically a walking jukebox. I'll have to ask him. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching the video till the end. I appreciate it. Consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed it, and leaving a comment and like. It helps to push my video to more people and help people find my channel. I'd like to know what you guys think about these Mandela Effects. Are they BS or not? Later.